listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
Welcome into the GM Shuffle. Geoff Schwartz, Marty, Hurney. GM Shuffle is presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. I am excited, Marty, because this is the week. It is Super Bowl week. It is here. It probably feels like the longest week ever for the participants in the Super Bowl. We'll talk about that because you have been there before, and I've been there through my brother before, who won a championship with the Chiefs, the first Super Bowl, and I was there the entire week, and I felt that as a brother of someone who's playing it. You were general manager of a team that played in the Super Bowl for this week, so we'll talk about that. We have coaching news and notes to get to. A general manager has been relieved of duty, and we're going to turn our eye a little bit to the draft, which will be here before we know it. There's a lot of prospects at the top of the draft. I want to talk to you specifically about positional value, a debate on social media this weekend about, where does a safety fit in, and I have thoughts about that. I also spoke with someone who drafted Ashton Genty last year with the Raiders about that exact topic a couple weeks ago. So we'll get into all of that. But Marty, let's start with the news of the coaching cycle. All 10 jobs now have been filled. Officially, 9 of 10 have been filled, but we know who the 10th will be. This weekend, the Cardinals hired Mike LaFleur, who you had discussed as being a possibility here. He's the brother of Matt LaFleur. I don't know much about him, to be honest. He's a non-play calling offensive coordinator for the Rams. I do think that's a concern for me, just the history of non-offensive play callers who get head coaching jobs. It's a big jump from not being in front of the room to being in front of the entire room here. Presumably he will call plays. Now, of course, these coaches do get opportunity to call plays in the preseason. It's not the same as the regular season. They have some say in game plan. Of course they do. But in the end, Sean McVay calls the plays for the Rams. LaFleur will now be in charge of that in Arizona. What were your thoughts on this hire, Marty?
Well, I think that you're right. I mean, but calling plays will be the least of his problems, his adjustments. I think that's easy. It's all the other stuff, Geoff. It's being a head coach. And, first job as a head coach is to hire the right staff and to coach your coaches. And it's different. Some guys can handle that and some guys can't. You have to be the bad guy sometimes. And that's not an easy thing to do. And it's nothing that gets easier the more you do it. Take it from me, but it's you have to be, we've used this, you have to be the quote CEO, and you have to work with the general manager, and you have to know really when to dig in and when to try to get a compromise. So it's an extremely big jump from being a coordinator to a head coach.
So we talked about this on our last episode, and I'd like to spin this forward to this hire. What's the first thing LaFleur has to get figured out, has to do once he officially becomes head coach? The press conference is over. He sits in his office now. It does feel very simply as quarterback, right? What do we do with Kyler Murray?
Yep. And basically that is sitting at his desk saying, I'm a head coach, a lifelong dream. Who's our quarterback? I mean, that's how it goes because, being a head coach is great, but if you don't get that guy behind center, you really don't have much of a chance.
Do you think their general manager is their general manager after the draft? Or do you think that's going to be a possibility where he's there, you think, at least for this season?
I think so. Mine's very respected, and I think he does a good job. So I think he is. But we'll wait and see. But, yeah, I think he's very capable.
The Raiders have announced, I guess they have not announced, it's been announced by enough NFL insiders that Klint Kubiak will be the next head coach, which does feel like this was always going to be the hire. And now, of course, he can't be hired until after the Super Bowl. First, Marty, in college football, when a coach is rumored to take a new job, we have seen the lack of preparation show up a little bit, the lack of focus on the team show up a little bit. Even when coaches have a job and then coach in the playoffs, it's not very good. They're not 100% in, even though they are in, right? But it's just not as clean, right? What's the concern level for you this week for Kubiak's preparation for the Super Bowl if he already has this job waiting for him after the game?
It's not. Not a lot, Jeff, I don't think. Listen, these guys are professionals, and Klint Kubiak is doing everything he would do to get ready for this game, but he's still a human being. He's still got a lot of things that he's taken care of other than this. So it's really about managing your time, and it's a good example for the team, really, about when you get out there. These 2 weeks, I mean, it's different. It's a different environment. And he, I think, will be good enough to manage his time well enough to take care of his personal interviews, things like that. But listen, you don't, everybody in this business knows it is so hard to get this close to winning a Super Bowl. He's going to do everything he can to win it.
The difference, of course, between college and NFL is in college, there's transfer portal, there's, signing days. Klint Kubiak's in no rush because the number one thing he's got to figure out is quarterback, and that's figured out. It's Francisco Mendoza. That's who the Raiders are going to draft 1 overall. And then I think, Marty, the roster's in bad shape, okay?
Yes.
And they have a lot of decisions to make about how they want to build this roster. First might be, what do we do with Maxx Crosby? Like to me, that's the first order of business for Klint Kubiak is to get in the building and figure out and maybe repair the relationship with Crosby, who I think you have to keep. He's a cornerstone piece of the franchise. And because of his effort and because of the energy and the time he spends putting into being the best Raider possible, I think that's a guy you keep, Marty. I understand the idea of trading him, but I feel like that's a cornerstone piece. Do you agree with me that they probably look at keeping him? That's sort of, Kubiak's basically first responsibility as head coach.
I agree with you, Jeff, and probably to a fault, but I've always believed you don't let difference makers out the door. They're too hard to find. And this guy is a difference maker, and he wants to be with the Raiders, or at least he wanted to be before they put him on IR when he didn't want to be put there. So, that's one of the, you talk about one of the first things Klint Kubiak will do will be meet with Maxx Crosby, because you just can't let difference makers, especially edge rusher types, walk away. We say it's a quarterback league. Well, how do you answer quarterbacks? Get pressure on them. So, I think they have to do everything they can do to keep Maxx Crosby.
News broke this weekend of the Vikings firing their general manager, who's been on the job since 2022. And there's many reasons for the firing, Marty. The timing does feel coinciding with Sam Darnold being in the Super Bowl with Seattle. But I want to start there with the firing. The revisionist history on this has to be looked at, okay? Last season, Sam Darnold was brought into the Vikings as a bridge quarterback for J.J. McCarthy, okay?
Yep.
McCarthy gets hurt in the preseason. He looks fine in the preseason, but he gets hurt early in the preseason. Darnold plays very well. The last 2 games of the season, a game to win the division and have a first-round bye, and a game in the playoffs. He played his 2 worst games of the season, the final 2 games of the Vikings season, right? And that was a bad taste left in their mouths. And they decided to let Sam Darnold walk in favor of starting J.J. McCarthy. In that moment, I think we all agreed with that idea, right? Why pay Sam Darnold? Why franchise tag Sam Darnold? Why pay him $30 million a year if he's not going to be your franchise guy long-term? Now, obviously, Marty, that's backfired, right? Because McCarthy might not be very good, and Darnold's playing the Super Bowl right now, but I feel like it's unfair to revisionist history that part of his job. It felt at the moment, and we weren't working together. Did you think at that moment that was the right decision to make?
I would not have let him go. They were 14-3, Jeff. 14-3 in the regular season, right? Weren't they? The Vikings?
So what do you, so you basically just say that that McCarthy, I should say, is like, we're moving off of McCarthy?
No, but we haven't found out about him. So I don't know how much it would have taken to keep Sam Darnold, but I can promise you, not knowing a thing, but just knowing head coaches, Kevin O'Connell probably went to the wall for him. And the Vikings wanted and Kwesi wanted to develop a young quarterback out of the draft. When he got hired, he talked a lot about franchise Super Bowl winning type quarterbacks, and that's what you build your franchise on. And it's an easy mistake, especially for a young general manager. One of the things that I learned, at least throughout the years, was that there's a fine line. Coaches will always say, don't get rid of a player unless you have a player to replace him. Sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes you have to clear the path to get better there. But I don't think this was the case. If they could have kept Sam Darnold and see what J.J. McCarthy can do. But JJ hadn't done anything. And I know he's a first-round quarterback, but we all know, even though there's so much pressure to play first-round quarterbacks right away, it doesn't work out all the time. And you had a guy that took you to a 14-3 record. I'm just guessing, but I would guess that Kevin O'Connell was not happy when they let him walk for an unproven commodity, no matter how much you like McCarthy in the draft. So I think that definitely had to be a part of it.
Well, that certainly was a part of it, because obviously, that ended up costing him his job there. The other thing that cost him his job was the draft picks that he has drafted have not been good, right? Look at the draft; it's just not a lot of impactful players. There are some that are getting there. I mean, Dallas Turner is improving every year, but you look at last year's draft. Not awesome yet. 2024, not great. 23 is fine with Addison, but then Blackman is I don't know, fine, I guess, right? 4th, 5th round picks, not great. 2022, almost no players worth a second contract. So that played a role in this too, right? As well, Marty. Like, the draft picks just weren't very good.
Yeah, and what was the makeup there? What was the process to getting to those decisions? And we don't know that, but I do know this, that when I saw this, I said, and Kwesi came out and was very strong with analytics, and I understand that, but this job is so complicated, Geoff. It's analytics, it's evaluations, it's communication, it's making sure everybody's on the same page, it's resolving conflict. It's doing so many things, building a formula with the head coach. There's a lot of things that are involved in the general manager's job that most people don't really understand. And I think that as a young GM, it's hard. You learn on the job. But obviously, I think, and you kind of heard this in the wind over the last year, is that, did he get along with Kevin O'Connell? Did they agree on their formula?
Yeah, I want to dig into a little bit more of that, Marty, because the analytics GM that he was branded to be, I think, backfired because he didn't actually run his team that way. And so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about some of the coaching storylines as well, and then we'll get into a little bit of the draft. We'll do that next. GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings Network.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
All right, we're back here on the GM Shuffle, cleaning up some of the news and notes around the Vikings firing their general manager here. So, Marty, Kwesi was branded as like this analytics general manager. I don't even know what that means, other than I think he used PFF a bunch. At least that was reported. Which, again, I mean, that's not analytics. That's just, the thing about, I like PFF. It's not an anti-PFF rant, but PFF has made it much easier for all of us to do our jobs, essentially, in a sense, because I used to have to track, like, watch film and like, okay, pressure, not a pressure. Now I remember in my career, they just hand me a packet. A PFF would list the pressures. I can just go find the pressures. Like, they do the things that everyone used to do, all the tendency charting. They just do it for you now. Now you have to cross-check some of it, but that's not quote unquote analytics. I hate how that's used, but there were rumors about him using PFF grades. And I will say, look, if you don't know a player very well, I would imagine going to using and looking at his PFF grade is not the worst option. You still have to watch the player, but just understanding maybe a player you're playing against. I don't really know this guy very well. Let me look and see sort of where he's graded out. I sort of get that idea, but nonetheless, branded analytics general manager. I don't really know what that meant, Marty. What did that mean when he was a general manager? I don't really think we saw that very much from him.
Well, I don't think there's anything such. So it's, the use of the word analytics. I agree with you, Geoff, but it's using metrics and probabilities and things like that, which we've always done. I mean, even the old school general managers have always used this, but it's a mixture of talents that are very hard to find, and they really are learned. You have to have patience with young general managers, but your number one job, is hire the right coach. And if you don't hire if you're not hiring the coach, if you didn't do it, if your voice wasn't in that, then get along with the head coach and make sure you both are on the same page on the approach, the formula, how you're going to work out decisions, who's included, what's important, how do we win games? I mean, these are meetings, hours and hours of meetings, 2-3 times a week when you start, just to get a feel of, okay, what is our foundation? How do we want to make decisions? And you have to be able to get along with people. You have to be able to communicate, and you have to know what a winning formula in the NFL is. So it's so much more than one thing. It's more than looking at the metrics, the analytics. It's more than going into schools and evaluating players and finding out information. It's more than just communicating with the entire staff and telling the coaches and the scouts what you're looking for at each position in a player. There's so many things involved in it that I just think it does the position. And it's not fair to the position to say, I can come in and fix it with analytics, or I can come in and just be an evaluator and fix it. There's too many things involved, and it just gets harder and harder. So I just think that, young general managers need time to learn those things, and really communication, getting along with everybody, bringing everybody onto the same page, working through the disagreements. That's a big part of your job, and it's a really hard thing to do.
So the Vikings said they're not going to hire a general manager until after the draft. Can you explain that process? Because it makes sense to me and you, because where they are right now in the scouting. But can you explain why that makes sense to wait until after the draft?
Well, they got Rob Brzezinski, who's president of football operations, and he's been there a long time, and he's very capable football executive. What this does kind of say, Geoff, I think, if you read between the tea leaves, is that Kevin O'Connell's going to have final say in the draft, I would think.
Okay. I hadn't thought about that.
So
that makes sense.
So,
okay.
What's going to happen if they're waiting until after the draft to hire a general manager? What is the structure going to be? And, once the horse is out of the barn, it's hard to get him back in. So what's the structure going to be? Is Kevin O'Connell going to be final say in personnel decisions? I would think that's probably going to be the case, but to get somebody from another team as general manager, you have to give them the real responsibilities of general manager. So I'll be interested to see how that plays out.
And right now, of course, the Vikings are deep into their, into their process for scouting. Like, there's a new general manager brought in could disrupt that process, right? Like, why change that now? Is that part of the thought process as well?
Yeah, I mean, it used to be that you didn't change general managers until after the draft all the time. And really, over the last 5 or 10 years, it's kind of gotten pushed back. And some people, have probably 50-50 have changed general managers right after the season. And, the idea, the thinking behind that is, okay, if we have a new head coach or we're changing the general manager, let's get our formula in place before free agency, before the draft, and let's get a start on this coming year. So it's two different paths that are taken, but I think that doing it before the draft now in the last 5-10 years has become more popular than waiting till after the draft.
All right, Marty, let's talk about our friends at Huel. We got snowed in this weekend in Charlotte, and we've had a lot of fun playing in the snow and the ice. And, sometimes we didn't have time for food. Didn't have time to go to the grocery store, but not with Huel, because Huel keeps me fueled, whether it's playing in the snow all day, whether it's coming from the gym, whether it's before this show. Huel is the place to go. A meal in a bottle, right? This chocolate flavor is fantastic. 35 grams of protein, 27 essential vitamins and minerals, dietary fiber as well. It tastes delicious. It keeps me fueled. And it's awesome whether you're playing outside all day in the snow and can't go to the grocery store, or whether it's after a visit to the gym. Huel is fantastic, Marty.
Yeah, Jeff. I mean, anybody that knows me knows that I haven't met a cheeseburger and French fries that I don't like, So I started this a couple weeks ago, and I like the daily greens. I like the blueberry, lemon, and thyme. That's my favorite flavor. And what it does is I don't eat in the morning. I drink it. I feel a difference. I feel more energy. I feel, it's got nutrients. It's got vegetables. I feel better. So what's that done? It's got me thinking more about my diet, more about eating healthier. And I just think it's a mindset. And it's all started with drinking one of these cans each morning. And it makes you feel better. And you start thinking, listen, are there other things I can do? So it's really set me down the right path.
They are fantastic, and you can get in as well. If you're trying to feel a little more put together in terms of easy wins for your day, this combo is such a great place to start. The greens and the ready-to-drink meals. Limited time offer. Grab Huel today with our offer 15% off with code SHUFFLE15 at Huel.com/shuffle15. New customers only. Thank you to Huel for partnering and supporting our show. Marty, there were 10 head coaches hired in this cycle. There was one minority candidate, that was Robert Saleh. There were 0 black coaches hired during this cycle. And obviously, this has gone backwards. The NFL hired 3 black coaches in 2024. And there were 0 hired in this cycle. And, not representative, obviously, of the National Football League. A lot of discussion about why this is. And I think simply, right, and it's not a simple subject, obviously, but there are not enough minority coaches that coach the offense side of the ball in the National Football League. And I know you had a stat that kind of discussed this a little bit further.
Yeah, I mean, in my knowledge, 0 black offense coordinators this year and 12 black defensive coordinators. So
there were it's play caller. Like Bieniemy was hired, but not a play caller, obviously.
Right. I'm out in the 2025 season.
Oh, yes.
The offense coordinators.
Yeah.
And some of those might not have play calling, but the fact of the matter is that, that's where a lot of these jobs come from. And, I've read some articles that kind of irritate me that start banging owners and make it sound like it's this big conspiracy. Let me tell you what, when you stay within the confines of the team, the organization, there's only one thing that matters from the owner all the way down throughout the entire organization, and that is to win football games and win a Super Bowl. You just want the best people that you think can take you there. And a lot of the times you're rolling the dice, especially when somebody has not been a head coach in either college or the pros. But definitely you want to see, if that isn't the case, you want to see somebody have a background of offense coordinator, defensive coordinator, not even calling the plays as much to me, Jeff. It's just getting up in front of that room and bringing guys together and leading an offense or leading a defense for that particular week. And when there's 0 black offense coordinators in a league that is a quarterback league, it is really drifting towards young offensive-minded coaches. I think that we have to take a look at how do we improve that area? What do we do, to get more minority or black offensive play callers, offensive coordinators in the league, because that's where the head coaching jobs are coming from. And I think that's where we have to start.
Yeah, so there were 21 OC changes in this cycle, okay? I believe there were only 2 so far that, are minority candidates, right? Eric Bieniemy, who's not calling plays, and Mike McDaniel, right? Who is calling plays in Los Angeles. I don't think there's been anyone else higher. That to me is the number one problem, as you mentioned, right? Now how does the start change? How do we make a change? Like, are there not enough coaching candidates that can start at the quarterback coach level? I don't even know where to begin making a difference in getting more minority candidates onto the offense side of the ball.
Well, I think aside from, like, more than the general manager position and the head coach position, the coordinator positions are the most important part to try to move up and move forward. So I think we have to find out a way. Do you have something where you train minority coordinators in a group? Does the league do something? I'm not sure how you solve it, Geoff, but we have to get more candidates and more coordinators in those positions.
You're exactly right. That's the easiest way to make this change, because as you mentioned, not every coach is an offensive coach was hired in this cycle, right? But it does feel like as we're moving toward more of an offensive league, that seems to be the preferred, candidate for these teams. We'll talk NFL draft next. GM Shuffle is presented by DraftKings Network.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
Back on the GM Shuffle here. It is draft season, Marty, believe it or not. If you were stuck this week without watching football, maybe you caught the Senior Bowl that was on. I think it was Saturday. I actually forgot it was on. I checked yesterday on Sunday, as we recorded this on Monday the 2nd. I thought it'd be on Sunday. I was like, I'm excited to watch the game. Nope, Saturday. I feel like those bowl games are getting lost now in the shuffle because the college football season is so long now. College football season doesn't end next year, Marty, till January 25th. Now, part of that is Labor Day is a week later than usual. So that's why, but still, like, these bowl games are happening. I used to love watching film of the one-on-ones, which are a difficult drill, obviously, some of the, the inside zone, inside run type periods, but we've had the bowl games come and go. The combine is right around the corner. So let's talk draft here. Let's talk about the order, first of all. So the top 10, let's stick to the top 10 because it's sexier. Top 10 picks in the draft. The Vegas Raiders are drafting 1. The Jets are drafting 2. Arizona's 3rd. Tennessee is 4. The Giants are 5. The Browns are 6. Commanders 7. Saints 8. Chiefs 9. And Bengals 10. No surprise, obviously, that pick 1, 3, 4, 5, 6 all have new coaches, so that'll be up to them to make those picks. So first off, let's start at the very top and talk about some matches here. Francisco Mendoza, the quarterback of the Indiana Hoosiers, is going 1 overall. I mean, on DraftKings right now, he's like minus 8,000 go 1 overall.
Right up the card.
There's not even like, do you think this is one of those where, does the NFL ever tell you guys to like not bring the card up for 7 minutes so the draft can be a little suspenseful? It feels like this one the Raiders just hand the card when the clock starts.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, they wanted, especially their early picks, but the first round usually wait. But we historically got them in pretty fast, just because you want to show that you were very convicted with the pick. So we would, when you decide you're on the clock, who you're going to pick now. When all the other picks out of you are in, you get the draft choice on the phone, make sure everything's fine, and then you put the pick in. But it usually takes anywhere from 5 to 7 to 8 minutes to get that process done.
Yeah, I mean he's minus 8,000 to be the first pick overall. You very famously were you there in Carolina when Minnesota decided not to put their card in? You got Jordan Gross.
Oh yeah, we had them ready. That card was tucked under your arm, and we were saying, "Get ready to run it up."
Okay, so
because we actually thought there was a chance the Vikings could take Jordan Gross, so we ran him up and jumped him.
I'm sure we'll tell this story again, but why not do it now? So, 2002, I believe it was, right? 2002, or was it 2003?
2, I think.
Two. It was 2. The Vikings were drafting, I believe, 9. You were drafting 10. And 8, 9, is that what it was? Whatever. It was at the top.
8
first.
Yeah, at the top. 8, 9.
And Minnesota just didn't turn their card in on time. They had 15 minutes back then. It was 15 minutes in the first round. And so when they don't turn their card in, Marty, you just automatically get to draft, like your time just starts. Is that what happens?
Yeah, I mean, if we're on the clock, if we're on the clock and they get their card up before us, the order doesn't change. But then if you run the card up, you beat them. That's your pick, and you're all high-fiving and happy, and everything's great until it comes time to, back in that day, negotiate the rookie contract, and they're going to say he was taken 8th instead of 9th. And so, those are the little things that you had to deal with. But yeah, you just, if you see a team's getting out of time, you get your guy on the phone and say, hey, this is our pick. Get ready. If they don't get it up in time, run the card up.
It feels like an archaic system. Do you have to call into New York and have someone run a card up to the front to officially draft someone, doesn't it?
Yeah, that was back then. It's changed now. You do it by computer. You still have the guy there. You still have the guy there to run up the card, but you put the picking computer, through the internet. So, but back then it was just run the card up.
So the Vikings did not draft in time. The Panthers then jumped up and drafted Jordan Gross, who ended up being 5 Pro Bowls, I think it was, in his time, an All-Pro as well 1 year. Now the offensive line coach at Utah. So a fun story there. So picking second overall.
The thing about that, Jeff, and it shows you how times have changed is, and now I don't know whether teams are serious or agents were serious, but there was, you kept hearing things that Jordan did not go to the Senior Bowl, right? And it was a decision made by him and his agent, and probably a smart decision. I mean, everybody knew who he was, so he didn't go, and everybody was saying, oh, that's going to hurt his draft stock. And we were saying, boy, I hope it does, because we were there waiting for him. And it's just, I don't think that would happen these days anymore, if people understand why decisions are made. And I don't know whether that affected him dropping that far or not, but he did, and we were thrilled.
Jordan was so good. I could tell many stories about Jordan Gross. He was my mentor in Carolina. There are guys, I say this a lot. We're going to get to Hall of Fame announcements pretty soon here. And I played with, it ended up being Adrian Peterson, Steve Smith, Julius Peppers, and maybe Eli Manning. As I think Eli will get it mentioned. 4 Hall of Famers I played with, but it's hard with the quarterback to talk about this. But those 3 guys, right? Steve Smith, Adrian Peterson, Julius Peppers. There's an extra level that they just are at that it's unexplainable. Like they're just at that level. Like it's just unexplainable how much better they are than everyone else. It's remarkable. Then there's like the next level down, and Jordan Gross is that next level down. Like he was just like that next level down of like incredible football player. But even then, like his ability to play the game, to practice, to rehab when he got hurt, all those things were just a level above like the average NFL player who's good in his own right? Like just a good NFL player. There's a next level up to Jordan, and there's a next level up obviously to like Julius Peppers and Steve Smith and those guys. But man, it's when you see the different levels of players and looking back on it, it's kind of wild to just like see where, and Jordan Gross was like the Hall of Very Good, right? He wasn't the Hall of Fame, but Hall of Very Good. And you need those guys to win, obviously.
Yeah. And if you were in the building with them every day, you would think he's a Hall of Famer, Jeff, because he made that much difference in the locker room. And those are the things that those difference makers, they bring a special quality in. They're looked at differently in the locker room, and they have so much impact. So when there are positive influences like Jordan, like Julius Peppers, like Steve came into the building every day ready to compete, and he might have gotten some frustrated some people, but he set the tone. He made everybody else better. All those guys have different traits to bring. And Jordan was just such a stabilizing factor in the offensive line, which I think is one of the leaders of your team as a unit, those 5 guys. And we had that. We had that there with Jordan. So, and Ryan and guys like that. So it was good.
You talk about players like that. And that brings me to positional value when it comes to the draft, right? Because picking up next is the Jets, right? And I think consensus number 2 player in this draft is Averill Reese, the linebacker from Ohio State. Now, he is an off-the-ball linebacker who can rush the passer, but let's just say he's not really going to rush the passer. He's going to be an off-the-ball linebacker. Positional value would tell you you don't draft that guy 2nd overall, right?
He's probably out of the top 10.
But if he's that good of a player, Marty, and you think he's that big of a difference, or Caleb Downs, the safety from Ohio State, same school, right? Those guys are not, quote unquote, like positional value top 10 picks. But if they're that good of a football player, Marty, are you going to pass on a guy like that? Like, is that a discussion you guys have in the building?
Yeah, certainly you do. But, and it also depends. This is why when you build your draft board, Jeff, you start vertically first. So you go quarterback and you list them in order. Then you go run back, list them in order. And then about, a week before the draft, we used to do it, you go horizontally and you put guys on lines. And there's not a lot of difference. Sometimes maybe some of the lines will be even, but it does come down to position value. And really, we know quarterback's the top, right? There's probably one quarterback in the top 10 this year. Edge rushers. There's a lot of edge rushers, and I expect to see quite a few taken in the top 10. And offensive tackles are also a position that are normally taken there. If the safety is a difference maker, and I always laugh, I forget what year, I'd go all the way back. Jerry Richardson, the owner of the Panthers at the time, and was very close to Dan Rooney, the owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers. They would talk probably every day, and they truly liked each other and respected each other. And Mr. Richardson would talk about how Dan Rooney would tell him that you never draft a safety in the first round. Position value does not warrant it. You don't take a safety. And then I think that year or the year after, they took Troy Polamalu at, 20. Mr. Richardson, I laughed at it. Like, if the player's a big enough difference maker, you make the move. You get them, right? So you have to balance, okay, the position value. And he played a lot of spots for them. They knew exactly how they were going to use him. And he was well worth the first round pick, obviously. But in this draft, I think that when you're looking about, we're saying it's a quarterback league, there's edge rushers, man, and I think there's going to be quite a few go in the first round here.
Polamalu, by the way, unbelievable. He would play runs in the B gap and then also play the middle of the field safety, aligning at the same position to start the snap. Like, he would be in the A gap or B gap and bail all the way to the middle of the field. Unbelievable football player. Yeah, but so that's my point. If you think Caleb Downs is that good of a player, then you should draft him 2 or 3. Now, I mentioned that's a Genti.
If he fits what you do, though, right. Jeff. If he fits what you do. The Steelers knew exactly what Polamalu did and how he would fit, and he was a perfect fit for their defense.
So I mentioned I talked to someone with the Raiders about the Genti draft pick, because last year, don't draft running backs in the first round. And we'll talk about Jeremiyah Love in a second. I do want to talk about this. And he said that he graded so much higher than anyone else left on the board they had at 6 that they felt they had to take him, right? And to your point about how you design your draft board, that made sense. But my point has always been, you have to have the blockers in the room to make sense to draft that guy. And the Raiders did not. So to me, they're wasting that pick. If you have Jordan Gross, Ryan Khalil, Travell Warren, you can draft Jonathan Stewart in the first round, right? Like, you have the guys in front of him to block. And that was my concern with Genti. Like, I get the positional value of it where you might not want to draft him, but he's graded so much higher than everyone else. You need someone to block for him. So look, we'll get into more draft. We'll talk about the other guys. I just want to get that talk, because I'm curious. This would be a draft where not a lot of maybe 12 first-round grades. It's not going to be a big first-round grade draft. It comes down to finding out some positional value. So let's continue this discussion now. We'll get to our best bets. We have best bets for the Super Bowl. We'll do that next year. James Show, presented by DraftKings Network.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
Back on the GM Shuffle, we're going to get into player specifics more as we get after the Super Bowl. Because I do want to discuss, Marty, the difference between a guy like Ruben Bain and David Bailey, or pass rusher, right? Even maybe Reese is a pass rusher. There's offensive tackles. Fano probably feels like the number one guy. Even though his teammate, I would say, Lomu is at Utah. I actually might like him a little bit more. Caden Proctor as well. There's wide receivers and Tate. There's be a guy that pops up somewhere out of nowhere. There's some cornerbacks and defensive linemen. So we'll discuss sort of more in depth where these guys are at. But you look at the top of the draft again. The Jets are 2. The Cardinals they both need quarterback. Not going to have them. They probably both need offensive line. Not going to probably be up pick 2 and 3. Are those edge rusher territories for those guys?
Yes.
If they're great high, you just take the edge rusher.
Yes. Yeah, because he has the greatest impact on the game on the defensive side of the ball. So, definitely.
I'm curious what Tennessee does it for, Marty, because I feel like everywhere but quarterback is a spot for them to go. They're probably not in the Jeremiyah Love discussion. But if a wide receiver is not available at 4, they don't think Tate is good enough, right? Do you just go edge rusher, you go cornerback, just something else, right?
Offensive line, right?
Yeah, but O-line at 4 in this draft feels high, doesn't it?
Yeah, or you trade back. But listen, you used the first overall pick on the quarterback the year before, right? What's the most important thing you have to do is protect him. So no matter how you maneuver around in this draft, make sure that by the end of it, you're happy with 4 guys, 4 of the 5 you have on the offensive line.
So you said something that I love and hate during draft season. Every fan base says, we're trading back. Just trade back. Okay, guys.
Oh, yeah.
You need someone to trade up. You can't. So I have the rule. I put this on social media. I say to everyone on social media, at Geoff Schwartz, to follow me. If you tweet at me, okay, that you want your team to trade back, you have to give me the team that's trading up. Like, you have to give me that. You can't just say all these teams. I would imagine the Jets, Cardinals, Titans, Giants, they all want to trade back, right? It's a draft that has, I feel like, excess second-round draft picks, right? And guys you can find later. But, so you're willing to trade back, right? It's not a draft that has a ton of guys at the top. You're like, I got to have this guy right now. But who's trading up for those guys, right? Like, that's my point. So these guys are going to be drafting where they're at. The Giants are at 5, okay?
Right.
Biggest needs according to NFL.com. Wide receiver, maybe you draft Tate. I don't know. O-line, Bano, Lomu, right? You need a right tackle, cornerback, linebacker, D-line. Again, this is a draft at the top that has a ton of pass rushers, a couple offensive tackles. This feels like a pass rusher spot, even though they already have a bunch of those guys, but you can't pay all of them, and they've been very important to what they do.
And to your point about the trade back scenario, Geoff, it's even more appropriate right now for this draft because it looks like, now it's early, but it looks like there's only one quarterback in the top 10. And that's what people trade up for in the first round is quarterbacks. And when there's not, if there is a difference-making edge rusher, if there is a difference-making left tackle, I think those are the 2 positions people trade up for. And when it comes to wide receiver, it's really funny. I worked with somebody, Geoff Marty. I think you know him, Geoff, and he was in personnel for over 30 years and worked very closely with me at the Panthers. And it was just incredible, especially on draft day. He'd always say, listen, be patient, don't overreact. And his theory on wide receivers was that there are so many that you have a better chance of getting a very good wide receiver in later rounds, 2nd, 3rd, 4th rounds, if there is, say, an edge rusher or an offensive tackle, a position value guy up high. He always felt, and then we always felt that you had a better chance of maybe getting a wide receiver, 2nd, 3rd, 4th round.
It does feel like, Marty, wide receiver is a position that you can draft all over the draft that plays the best early on. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I mean, as far as
yes,
no,
I don't know. I don't know about that, there, Schwartz. I don't know.
I mean, you can get so like when you draft them later, it takes them longer to get the attention of everybody. Yeah. I mean, we took Steve Smith in the 3rd round, and he was a returner, and we looked at him as a returner for a year. I mean, we drafted a wide receiver in the 7th round, and a couple coaches thought that he was better than Steve Smith, and it was like, what are you talking about? So then once he got on the field and once he got to show what he can do, I mean, he was a first-round talent that we got in the 3rd round, and it worked out great.
Yeah, obviously, Steve worked out really well for you guys. I'm very curious about pick 8 and 9 here. So New Orleans Saints are picking 8. I've seen mock to them Jeremiyah Love just to say, hey, man, we're going to take another impressive young skill guy to pair with Tyler Shuck. It does feel like if you're trying to get him better, that feels like not the worst spot for for Jeremiyah Love. What do you think about that matching there?
Yeah, I think, and with New Orleans, I think that's the way they think. And again, I laughed when you talked about drafting running backs in the 1st round, Geoff. I was laughing because I almost got run out of town. I mean, obviously at the Panthers, we took D'Angelo Williams late in the 1st, and then we took Jonathan Stewart, as you mentioned, at 13. And I always thought that the offensive line, running backs, the running game, set the tone, set the tempo for your offense. Running back, offensive linemen love to run the ball. And when you have a young quarterback, his best friends are his tight end and his running back, in my opinion. Obviously, he needs a good offensive line in front of him, but that's what you do. So I think that would be a great pick. I think that Love is an offense changer. He's a game changer. He's a difference maker. And I think that I'm not sure he will actually get to 8, but he is one of those special talents that I think that will make a difference. There will be a lot of heat on whoever takes him for taking a running back in the top 10. But if you get a difference maker, that's all that matters.
The Chiefs are at 9, obviously a spot they do not expect to be in. As a Chiefs fan myself, if Ruben Bain is there at 9, the pass rusher for Miami, to your point you made earlier, I am sprinting up to pass that card in. It does feel like they have to draft a pass rusher on the edge here, whether it's David Bailey, whether it's Ruben Bain. I know that there will be some thoughts of drafting Sadiq, the tight end out of Oregon. I just think pass rusher is so much more important for them at the moment. Marty, what do you think Kansas City does at 9?
And you know what, Jeff? It's interesting you say that, and I agree. It's edge rusher, right? But we're talking about moving up. Like if you're Tennessee talking about moving up, look at the number of teams up there that need a pass rusher. If you're Kansas City and love a guy, you're looking at 7 to the Washington Commanders saying, man, there's a real good chance they're gonna take an edge rusher there. We better get ahead of them if we think they're gonna take the guy we like. So I definitely think that Kansas City is edge rusher and Cincinnati is defense.
But if you trade up, you're giving up a first-round pick next year if you're in that position, correct? If you're going from 9 to 7.
Depends how far, but likely so, yeah.
Oh, man, it feels like the Chiefs just aren't in a position to do that, Marty, and you just have to pray that that Lemon is so good that someone takes him in the top 10 and maybe someone does that too, and Ruben Bain is a character flaw that gets figured for some reason that's, I don't know, that drops on the 9 or I love David Bailey. I watch him terrorize my Ducks. I would love for him to be in a Chiefs uniform, but Bain sort of fits, I think, what they want to do on defense a little bit more here. If you like what you're hearing here, the GM Shuffle is even more VSiN Pro betting, splits, power rate, sharp, and house. All for $9.99 in your first month. Go to VSiN.com/subscribe. Check out all the subscription options. Very quickly, you mentioned 10 with the Bengals. I mean, I would put all the monies if the defensive player first, right? It has to be, correct?
Got to be.
Any position? Any position?
Yeah, seems like it. Especially, and what happens with Trey Hendrickson? I mean, any position. But my voice is getting soft on you because of all the teams to predict what they're going to do. I mean, you would think they would have to take a defensive player, but not necessarily.
The problem is that the top 3 rushers are presumably Bain. Oh, the top 2 really, Bain and Bailey, right? Those are the top. Those are like for sure top 10 guys. Are they going to overreach for someone? I'm going to laugh very hard if like Mekhi Lemon is there at 10 and they take Mekhi Lemon. Oh my God. I just, another wide receiver.
Let me ask you this, Jeff.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something real quick. Yeah. Love's sitting there at 10 for the Bengals.
I mean, I
love Chase Brown. I love Brown. He's a working guy. I love him in Illinois.
Without getting long, we have to get to our best bets here. I don't love it because their run game offense is terrible. Like, it's not an offense set up well to run the football. I feel like a waste of a draft pick if you're not going to set your offense up to run the football. I'd go defense here. But we got to get into our best bets here for the Super Bowl, Marty, presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Let's start with you. What are your best bets for the Super Bowl?
Well, I've gone back and forth, and then I finally got to the spot on the game, Jeff, saying the NFL, we sit here and say how bad, at least I do, how bad my picks were each week. And it's because you try to go by logical thinking and you look at this game and you're saying, okay, the New England Patriots, who have they played? I think 11 of their games were against teams that fired their head coach after the year. You look at the matchup, it goes to Seattle, but there's just something about being around this league and watching teams in the playoffs, watching well-coached teams, and I like the Patriots getting 4.5. I do, and I actually am thinking about putting a small money line bet on the Patriots because I just think that both of these defenses are so good. And you look at Sam Darnold and Drake May, and it may come down to who protects the ball better. But I like the Patriots at 4.5. I like Rashid Shaheed to either catch a 50-yard touchdown pass or 20-plus yards rushing yards, and then Kayshon Boutte to make a big play plus 40 yards receiving touchdown at 12-1.
I like the Patriots under 20.5 points in this game. I don't think they're going to score very much. Drake May under rushing, under 37.5 yards rushing. I just think that the Seahawks are going to limit that with their zone coverage. I like Mac Hollins under 2.5 receptions. And Marty, I also like now I got so many wagers in here. Drake May under 43.5 first quarter passing yards. Those are my 4 wagers. Hope you guys enjoyed our show today. Please rate, review, subscribe. We'll be back on Thursday with a full Super Bowl preview. Take care, everyone. Talk to you guys on Thursday.